Well, good evening and welcome. It is 6:30 on Monday, November the 14th, and I'm calling to order this meeting of the Planning Commission. Tonight's Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and virtually via Zoom. As chair, I'll be leading the Planning Commission meeting, and the public is welcome to participate when invited throughout the meeting. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or join via online Zoom. Additional instructions on how to participate are posted online at burnsvillemn.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, tonight's meeting is available for viewing on BCTV and on the city's website. If you're unable to participate this evening and would like to submit public testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or send them directly to City Hall. You may participate in tonight's meeting online, as we said before, by going to https://zoom.us/join and typing in meeting ID 860-7240-8702. Once logged into this meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator which item you wish to speak to. If an attendees experience audio problems, we suggest you leave the meeting and then rejoin. This usually fixes the issue. You may also call into the meeting at 651-372-8299. Again, the meeting ID is 860-7240-8702. For each public hearing, I will open up a time when callers may speak to that item and give more instructions at that time. Your call will be muted until then. Please note there's going to be a slight delay due to the difference in technology, so if speaking by phone, excuse me, please mute your computer since there might be a delay. All this and more information is included on the City of Burnsville website, again in the public meeting calendar. With that, let's turn to the agenda. Let's go to, hopefully everybody got a chance to look at the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Commissioners? Seeing none. Staff?
No changes.
No changes. With that, I would like to look for a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Braddock?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Braddock. Do I have a second? Commissioner Awad?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Awad. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. With that, we'll move on to our last meeting was, I believe, 3 years. Yeah, it might have been the 19th somewhere. We had minutes from the September 12th, 2022 meeting included in your packet. Did everybody get a chance to read them? Were there any changes, commissioners? Everybody liked them. Staff?
No changes from staff.
No changes from staff. With that, I'd take a motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Anderson?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson. Do I have a second? Commissioner Timmerman?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Timmerman. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that again is unanimous. So then we're going to move to our public hearing for tonight. It's an application of Mitchell Retka for a plan unit development amendment to allow a lounge use and coffee shop greater than 3,000 square feet, known as Fox Den Board Game Cafe, in the existing building located at 12450 River Ridge Lane here in Burnsville. Here to speak on that is one of our city planners, Sarah Madden. Ms. Madden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So as said, item this evening is a plan unit development amendment to review. It is a public hearing this evening. That's left off of my PowerPoint, but it will be a public hearing. So this site may be familiar to you. At the end of 2021, we did see a PUD amendment application for this site for a auto repair use. So at that time, the building had just been sold, and a portion of it was to be used for that auto repair, kind of in that eastern, we'll say, side of the building. So there were those two, kind of one large remaining space that has been turned into two leasable spaces in the remainder of the building. So this application is for a use in one of those two spaces. So the applicant is on behalf of Fox Den Board Game Cafe, so kind of a new use that we haven't seen in the city of Burnsville so far. And as part of their application last time, we were able to kind of wrap around this building, since it was an existing PUD, into the approved and permitted and then approved like accessory uses could continue to be approved within the PUD. The listed uses that are under review this evening are conditional uses, so they were not included in that kind of ordinance amendment statement for that PUD. So again, the site may look familiar to you, and the kind of area that we're looking at is generally the kind of that left, that western, southwest maybe side of the building where this space is to be located. So shown here is their proposed floor plan of the space. So you can see that what we're looking at is there is on the upper right corner, you're kind of seeing their cafe space. The upper left corner, they're going to have a retailer and merchandise counter. There's storage in the rear of the building, of course, a restroom facility. But generally what we're looking at for as part of the land use clearance is the larger open area of kind of that social board game entertainment function, as well as there's 3 kind of smaller reservable rooms for board game play as well. So the reason that it's a conditional use, kind of we looked at it 2 ways. In the mixed use zoning district, a coffee shop or coffee house, deli, things like that are greater than 3,000 square feet, they trigger a conditional use permit. Also, kind of a more unique use we don't see often is the lounge use listed in the zoning ordinance, which would be a conditional use, which is essentially a place for social gathering that may or may not serve alcohol. This particular location, there's no intent by the applicant to serve alcohol. It is to be like a cafe, reheatable food maybe, but no like food prep as in kitchen services on site. So tea, coffee, things like that. And then kind of the board game playing use, social use in the majority of the space. So these are pretty common in general nationwide. There are a few in the metro area, but right now there's none south of the river, so this would be a unique use for Burnsville. So as part of the plan unit development, we do look at deviations and benefits to land use and to the city code. So there aren't any deviations requested for this application. It's just to approve those listed conditional uses. But as far as benefits to the public, benefits from a land use standpoint, the proposal provides an upgraded space for New Burnsville business. The existing building, which used to contain 1 user, is going to function as a multi-tenant mixed-use building within the mixed-use zoning district. You may remember that this site was recently rezoned last fall to mixed use, so this is a land use benefit to the site to kind of meet the intent of the mixed use zoning ordinance. The proposed use is unique to Burnsville, drawing new customers and visitors, and then the proposed use will meet the mixed use zoning district's intent of providing entertainment and or recreational use within close proximity to transit. So this is within a walkable distance to the MBTA, the Burnsville Transit Station, and then of course across the street would be the Orange Line Station as well across 13. Which is another topic. But so kind of staff considerations with this application. So the amendment again is to allow those listed conditional uses of a coffee shop larger than 3,000 square feet and then the lounge use. So the conditions and approvals related to the previous plan unit development do remain in effect with this approval. Just like last time, we're continuing to keep that statement that permitted uses and permitted accessory uses that are allowed in the mixed use underlying zoning will continue to be permitted within the plan unit development. There are 149 parking stalls on site. That does include kind of that rear storage area that's fenced in, but that's sufficient to support the existing and the proposed uses. We can review parking needs administratively as a staff for the future, that 3rd tenant space, as part of a building permit if they are one of those kind of listed permitted uses. If it is something that triggers a conditional use at that time, we'll go over that with a future applicant if it's necessary, but the permitted uses, and we're able to review parking administratively going forward, kind of based on the site and situation of this property. We don't see any issues with the parking as proposed. So overall, staff is recommending approval of the PUD amendment. So subject to 2 conditions. So that's those blanket conditions that the previously approved plan unit developments remain in full force and effect, and that no exterior signage may be installed without issuance of a sign permit. So with that, I can stand for questions. The applicant is also in the audience this evening if you have questions for them. And again, this is a public hearing this evening.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Madden. Any questions, commissioners, for city staff? Man, everybody's just so quiet. I was curious about the 84 parking spaces required for this. That seems really high to me. That's based on a calculation, if I remember correctly, right?
That's correct. So that's based on, for this particular use, the total square footage of the space. So it's 1 spot per 50 square feet, but then we do remove like storage areas and bathrooms from that. Okay. So that's what it's coming from. So it does leave, I think it was 17 spaces left, like if we assumed like full use for that third space. However, these are going to be offering at off-peak hours, differing peaks, so we don't see an issue with that.
Right, it just seems to me that that would be a good problem for them to have. I'm not sure they're gonna have 84 cars pulling up there. Maybe they will, I don't know, it may be a popular spot. I'm hoping it is, but yeah, that was my question on that. That's the only questions I have, so it is a public hearing. I'm gonna open it up to the public. It is 6:40 and 23 seconds. And anyone that would like to speak to this item may feel free to come up to the lectern. Also, if we have anybody on Zoom, they can feel free to let the moderator know they'd like to speak to this issue. And if you're on the phone, you can dial #6 and speak with the moderator again. And I'm not seeing anybody come up to the lectern. I'm not hearing anybody on Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:41. And I would like to ask the applicant if they'd like to come speak to us or answer any questions they have, we have, blah. You would have to speak to, to the lectern, yeah.
Well, do you guys have any questions for me?
I have one question for you.
We got great questions for you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind going over to that corner where Ms. Madden is there, that's the active mic here. And can you just say your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Mitchell Retka. My current living address, I'm at 3921 Valley View Drive North in Eagan, Minnesota. Although I am presently moving into 1550 Galaxy Avenue in Apple Valley. Just got to get out of my apartment at the end of this month.
Well, you should have considered Burnsville, I think. Sorry, I had to put that out there.
If my girlfriend was already living in Burnsville, I would move in with her there.
Before Mr. Timmerman has his question asked, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about this Fox Den Board Games Cafe.
Sure.
Let us know.
Well, we're very excited for it because me and my business partner, Brandon Reed, are enthusiasts of going to card shops and board game stores to play games. And there's a couple of stores in the North Metro area that are quite a drive away that offer this similar sort of business model that have been doing very well, and it's been doing very well across the states and across the ocean. We just really like that space in the South Metro area, and we're trying to really separate ourselves from the rest by having a more attractive space with more amenities than the average. And we're really hoping that Burnsville is the best location for us. So hopefully this will be, mutually beneficial relationship.
I hope so too. Thank you for choosing Burnsville. Commissioner Timmerman.
Thank you, Chair John. The question I have is related to the lounge use. Are you familiar with the idiosyncrasies of that? Because I'm not.
Okay, the
And
reason
so
why
I'm-
we chose lounge,
Okay.
if you're okay with me cutting you off there,
No, absolutely.
was because we were trying to look under the various definitions of how to describe how often people would be sitting and spending time in our business. The next closest one to lounge would have to been like a casino style assembly space, considering it's not like a restaurant in the sense that people are coming in, eating in like a half an hour or an hour and then leaving. We're trying to keep butts in seats for at least anywhere between 2 to 8 hours. But not so much to the point where it would be like any other form of entertainment space, like a performance hall or something like that. We just figured that with the amount of people that would come in, casually play games, get a drink, and hang out hopefully anywhere between 2 to 8 hours, that the assembly use was the most appropriate fit for the amount of traffic and volume of ins and outs that we're expecting to see.
So my understanding is that with a lounge use, and again, I don't have intimate knowledge, but alcohol can be brought into a lounge. Do you anticipate that being done by your customers?
I think we're probably going to be against that purely because we considered alcohol at one point, but there was a particular company that we need to coordinate with to host certain events that prevents the use of sales of alcohol during their events. So I would say that that's not gonna be a concern. We'll probably just, yeah, ban alcohol from the business.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe there's options for other events down the road where that is something. And maybe I'll ask more specific questions of Ms. Madden too, just to familiarize, the planning commission with those. But I'm glad you've at least thought about it, because that was the first thing that came to mind when I heard lounge use.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Any other questions, council? Council. Wow, commissioners.
Commissioner people.
Yeah, that was a Freudian slip. I apologize. Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Retka, for coming up and speaking with us.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Great. With that, commissioners, any other commentary, questions? You sound like Commissioner Timmerman had a question for Ms. Madden.
Yeah, just to follow up for Ms. Madden, what are the parameters around alcohol use in a lounge? And is that something that, if they're not planning to do now, could they petition the city to do, or do they not need to at all?
So with the lounge use, they could apply for a liquor license and go through that hearing process related to that. With the way that this is part of a plan unit development and we're approving it as a lounge and a coffee shop together, if somebody were to take over this lease in the future and want to do something similar, it would likely need to go through the plan unit development amendment process again to look at how the space is being utilized. In this particular case, we're saying that it's a lounge for the board game cafe. It is kind of an odd use, so they were mentioning kind of looking at it from an assembly standpoint, which is how we chose to look at it from a staff, because it isn't a restaurant, it isn't where, like they mentioned, they're aiming for a kind of a long-term seating. So I don't know how familiar the commission is with businesses like this, but generally you can think of it as like a board game library. So you have the ability to test out board games, card games, play for fun, like before you buy. They would sell some on site and cards and things like that as well. But or you could possibly bring your own if you're going to use one of the private rooms, like the games. So you got to think like Dungeons and Dragons. Is somebody going to sit down at this table and they're going to do their campaign for 12 hours? Like that's, the like longest scenario. But it's not coming in and having your drink and then sitting for your 35 minutes and then leaving.
Sure.
So it is kind of a longer use. So if you're interested, you can try to Google some in the area. I know, Kevin, what are the names of examples? Sorry.
There's Lodestones in Minnetonka, some others in the other North Metro area, for sure.
I wanted to just like Google it and take a look at it, but the way that it's formatted in this is for the way that it's phrased in the ordinance as kind of like a social area, may or may not alcohol. So they could have alcohol as part of the zoning use. They would have to go through the liquor licensing process. A lot of the other locations in the North Metro, they do serve alcohol, and they're like, maybe you're having like a bar drink while you're playing your board games with your friends on your social outing. This particular location, they've let us know that they are seeking to be able to host some certain like card game tournaments, and in order to be able to host those, like they've mentioned that there's some restrictions about whether or not they have alcohol on premises. So that's why they're planning on kind of a different approach and going for more coffee, tea, boba, things like that.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's an awesome use. I think it'll be successful. I think there's a lot of people in the South Metro that will be looking for this. So good luck, guys.
Any other comments, questions, concerns, commissioners? Commissioner Anderson.
I mean, for me personally, I think this all makes perfect sense to go ahead with this. I think it sounds like a great idea. Not too far from where I live, and I like some good board games and D&D, so maybe I'll stop by sometime.
Good deal.
But if nobody has any other questions, I'd be happy to make a motion.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Can I get the little...
While
I
he's
guess.
doing that, I was just going to say that, yeah, my wife is so excited about this. She goes up to the North Metro, and I think it's a perfect spot for it. So great work, guys.
I would like to make a motion to, that the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council approval of the planned unit development amendment, subject to the following 2 conditions.
Okay, I got a motion. Commissioner Wad.
I will second the motion.
All right, we had a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Wad. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And no one opposes. Therefore, it's going to end up on the consent agenda November 22nd. That's a Tuesday at 5:30 in these very chambers. Congratulations, guys. I'm really excited for you guys. Good deal.
Thanks, Jeff.
And Mr. LaFarve, who's also in the audience. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, updates. Any updates for us commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to turn over to our staff. Any updates, staff?
I have a few. So, as we noted at the beginning of the meeting, it's been a while since we last met at the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to let you know that right now, so typically your next scheduled Planning Commission would be November 28th. It is looking like we're planning to cancel that meeting. We will formally notify you when the decision has been made. But I just wanted to note that it may seem light right now. We do have, we actually had 2 applications that were withdrawn. We have a couple of applications that have asked for extensions to continue their review before their public hearing. And we have a lot of stuff that we're still working on in the pre-application phase. So it does seem light right now. But our next, if we don't meet on November 28th, then we'll meet on December 12th for our last Planning Commission meeting of the year. Typically at that meeting, there's a social engagement for the Planning Commission afterwards, so keep that in the back of your head and let us know so that we can notice that properly for you guys to go out for whatever you want to do after the December Planning Commission meeting.
Board
Since we only-
games. That's right.
That was a hanging stuff.
since we only have one meeting that month. And then also just to note, so our new Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson, started in mid-October. So he was not able to make it tonight to the meeting to say hello and kind of introduce himself. We're hoping that we can catch him at the next one. But yes, so he started in mid-October. He comes to us from the city of Maplewood as our new Community Development Director. So with that, that is my last update.
Well, thank you. Madden, any other, I guess that brings us to our last item on the agenda. Anyone have? Commissioner Wallace has to keep his hands down. He can't do it this time. Commissioner Wad,
I move that we adjourn.
a movement to adjourn by Commissioner Wad. Commissioner Anderson,
I second that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. It is unanimous. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great night.